I'm her chief marketer. No, really nice stuff. She's doing some custom painted silk scarves and some custom hand-tailored kimono. Really nice stuff. She's doing some custom. There we go. It looks like we are up and operational, and I'm going to basically start the recording, and away we shall go. Okay, I have time. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. This is Dennis Wilborn, the Active Trend Trader. I want to welcome you, everybody, to the session of How to Make Money Trading Stocks weekly live stream. Glad you are joining us today. Really excited to have Daniel joining us all the way from Singapore this morning. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning there. And now that is absolute wonderful dedication to trade the markets if you are in Singapore. And there we go. So remember, learn the process. On the process, learn to focus on the process, the profits will follow, which is absolutely true. As I'm taking a look at the market today, as I said earlier, we're down a little bit. Not a dramatic sell-off or anything, but there is a pretty dramatic sell-off going on in several of the stocks we watch. You know, anything from Netflix is getting beat up pretty well today. Boeing, they have earnings next week. We thought we were going to get an earnings run. Instead, we're getting an pre-earnings dump on Boeing. We actually taken out of a position there, and then also joining us is Steve Ferreira. Steve, welcome aboard. We'll, how do you pronounce your last name? You gotta unmute yourself. Steve?
Hello? Yes?
Yeah. How do you pronounce your last name?
Ferreira.
Okay, Ferreira.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was pretty close.
Yep, very good, very good.
I could say Ferrari, right?
That would be great if that were true.
Okay, hey, let's get on into the rest of the session. Yeah, I'm really glad. Steve is a recently retired professor at the University of Hawaii, and he is an absolute superstar when it comes to Wyckoff trading systems and also Investor Business Daily. So let's take a real quick look. What's the objective of the session today is basically timely, actionable intel review at the end of the week to provide clarity and to clarify, simplify market decisions so your wealth can be multiplied. As you may recall, last week I did not have a live session, but I basically recorded and then posted a session. And my statement from last week was, I'm not buying this market yet. No real trend defined. Make any long move prove itself. Well, guess what? The saying from last week still holds for this week. The story is still the same. Add to that some of the complexities of the Fed meeting that's coming up on October 30th. That is Wednesday, in about a week and a half or so. Kind of the interesting thing about today's market is yes, we're getting a slight sell-off, but it doesn't seem to be connected to the Chinese trade issues. And so I'm keeping my eye on that. We'll be looking at that through the weekend. Then we'll take a look at the stocks, ETFs, performance, bonus setups, if there are any. Steve's got a potential stock that he's going to suggest or look at. We're in the time of year, October through December, where we tend to get a little bit of a year-end run. We're moving to the midsection of October. This has been a weird year for seasonality. Seasonality has not really come into play, with the exception of when you're looking at these seasonality charts, look around the times when you see a little bit of an uptick in the market or a downtick in the market. Those seem to be working fairly well. but the overall chart looks nowhere near what's actually going on in the market. Russell, same way. Russell's been the big laggard for almost the whole year. But we'll see if we can get, we started to get some life in the Russell moving into the last couple of weeks. So we'll see if seasonality does kick in. The Russell tends from the end of October through the end of December to actually run further and faster than the other two tracking indexes that we track. So right now we're down from where we were last week, but we're still up nicely for the year. The indexes themselves, NASDAQ's showing the strongest return, up about 1.8% from where it was last year at this time. Everything else, Russell down from the highs from last year. The Dow down from the highs from last year. S&P just slightly above, and the Nasdaq is also slightly above, or is above the removes from last year. One of the things that I really am glad, if you are a active trend trader member, you get access to this power rank chart of stocks that I go through every weekend. I try to get this posted on Friday or Saturday. And what it is basically I go and I evaluate over 500 stocks that come out on 13 different IBD watch lists, premium watch list, and I consolidate them and rank them down into just basically a handful of stocks. So, and then one of our members was sharing with me the way he uses this is he just goes in and kind of cuts it off after the first 5 or so. He then looks to see if those particular stocks are already on his watch list. And if they're not, he adds them. And then basically he waits for his setups, but he knows he's getting the absolute cream of the crop with this. And this is offered to all active trend trading members, both premium and non-premium members. So let's get a look at the indexes. And I'll be looking at both I've got a weekly chart over here, a daily chart over here. I have really been simplifying my charts over the last, month or so. And it has really helped me hone in on better entries for potential trades. I basically took my Keltner channels off. And so when I'm doing my analysis on weekend, I'll add my Keltners back in and a couple of other, the market forecast. But basically, I want just a really clean look. Why is that? It's a matter of efficient use of time. I can see where I want to plan my moves based on just these simple charts. So with the S&P here's what we've got going on. Let me get my drawing tools up here. Okay, a couple of things going on. One is we've pushed back up towards this level about the 300 to 303 level. What do we see going on a daily chart? Well, guess what? We've got some slight negative divergence. I'm not going to call it full-blown negative divergence simply because we haven't quite got up as high as I would like to, where I could actually legitimately say, hey, I've got negative divergence here, but it's close. TSI appears to be slowing, maybe going to get a rollover. The line in the sand for the weekly chart, of course, on the momentum indicator, TSI, is that line right there. Oftentimes, and that's what one of the things that I really love about using the TSI is that it provides really great patterns where you can see patterns coming over here. And when you get the breakouts from the patterns, oftentimes it correlates very nicely to either a time to buy or a time to negative divergence sell to do the ride down. So that's what we're looking at there. I'm not, like I said, I'm not seeing a lot. We got all the way up to 300. We basically put in a spinning top type of doji. And then we sold off today all the way down to the 8-day moving average. It stopped dead in its track at the 8-day, and it's doing a little bit of a rebound. I'll be taking a look at this over the weekend on the intraday chart to see if there, does it look like the path of least resistance is down or up? Where does the S&P come? Let me go over to the Qs representing the NASDAQ, because I want to trade either the Qs or IWM. I'll just be straight up with you on that. Now this is a little bit better from the aspect of negative divergence. Crossed here. Price action got all the way up into approximately the past high. So that's a good, but then reversed immediately, dropped down a little bit below the 8. Where does this become of interest to me? It becomes interest to me if we get a pullback down into this little box right there between the 189.27 and about the 190.37. We almost made it down there today, but it's basically that little gap between the 20-day and the 50-day moving average. Now, if we get a crossover on the TSI telling us that momentum, and TSI stands for True Strength Index. If we get a cross down to the downside and we get a break below the 8-day moving average and the 8 and 20 look like they're going to cross, I'll be looking at potential being able to trade this to the downside. How far down? Down to somewhere between 185 and 182, that level of support. So that's what I'm looking at there. And then on IWM. IWM has been the weakest link, if you will. And it's kind of interesting. My wife told me to not put Fibonacci's on this, but just eyeballing this from this high here to this low here and back up, that looks like it's about a 50% retracement. It has gotten back up above the 200-day moving average, positive. The 8 and 20 have crossed to the upside, positive, and it's finding some support about the 50-day moving average. What's it going to do from here? Right now, we close where we are. What we have going on is we have a bearish harami. That means the small body of today's candlestick is in the midsection of this candle, big green candle there. So for the candlestick, it's called a bearish harami because it's at the end of an uptrend, which can have negative consequence if it resolves to the downside. If we resolve to the downside, again, I like this level here, probably about, let's give it about 150.82, all the way down to about 150. We break below 150, then we're probably going to visit somewhere in between 150 and 146. Are we going to get all the way back down to 145? I don't know. I can't make that call, but somewhere in those ranges, again, this will be one of those I take a look at over the weekend to see what may be cooking with that. So, Steve, you got anything on the indexes themselves? Let me see where's Steve at.
I believe we're in a
hold on. You got to start over again. You were muted.
Okay. I basically agree with your analysis. I think we're at a tipping point. We're at a cusp in the market, and we can go either way. Personally, I lean to being very bullish the next 4 to 6 months. But until we break out, that's you've got to be a little cautious of the action.
Yeah.
I see that technicals is being bullish. We've got an upsloping 50. We're holding above it, and we're actually a bit extended above the 50. So pullback to the 50 area would not be unexpected.
Yeah.
So I'm basically I have an opinion of being bullish, but the market will tell me how to trade depending on how it breaks.
That's right. So yeah, there's a little box right there. I think that if this box holds right here, then we're probably going to get a bounce to move higher. We'll watch. We'll see.
Right.
And that would be absolutely awesome, because if we bounce here, and even if we go up from 152 up to 158, that's a heck of a nice move.
Absolutely.
So, now, what stock did you want to share with us today?
SEDG, Sedge, Solar Edge. And it's a position I just, in the last hour, took a position in.
Okay. Do you want to tell us why?
Let's look at a daily chart. Okay, you got it. Basically, we're in what I call a Wyckoff trading range. We start in about the 13th of August and draw a rectangle at the high on the 13th of August with the low 3 days later, and we form a trading range. Right
okay,
there.
hold on a second. Let me grab that. So from here?
Right, that's correct.
To here?
Correct.
Then across?
And across. There's a Wyckoff trading range. We actually broke down through it, indicating what Wyckoff would call a sign of weakness. But then buyers stepped in, and we're basically holding the 50-period moving average very well. It's upsloping. We've tested both sides of the trading range, and I think since the last test, we've traded back into the mid-range of the trading range.
Sure.
And I think we're ready to break to the upside.
Okay. It looks, I mean, clearly based on the moving averages, the 50, the 20, and the 8, they're all stacked in the
and sloped. Yeah, stacked and sloped.
Yeah.
Technically very sound.
And so, yeah, that looks pretty good.
And yesterday, look at the volume that came in yesterday.
What was that about?
Mobility. I don't know. I tried to look it up. I can't find it. There's no news on the stock that I'm aware of. I think that's buyers coming in on the weakness yesterday.
Well, I tell you what. Normally we don't do this. So let me jump over to the intraday chart on this. Like I said, normally I don't do this.
Right.
But yeah, it looks like it had a sell-off,
right?
At the get-go yesterday morning, but then it got down to this $83 range, $82.50 range, and then just stopped dead in the water. And all the rest of that, because this is a 1 hour chart. So this was the last 2 days.
Right.
Actually, 1, 2,
3 days.
Yeah.
4 days.
And so now it's starting to pick back up. And so what's really funny, Steve, is from my next door neighbor's dog hears me talking and thinks I'm talking to him. But anyway, this is actually from the active trend trading perspective on an hourly chart, giving us some really good signals that you could almost jump into a trade right now.
I agree. Right now, the trades right now.
And your stop loss. What are you going to put a stop loss about 82?
Under yesterday's low, stop loss at 82.62 for me.
So you're going. There's the low yesterday.
Yes.
And that is
it's below that
82.68. So you're getting 4 cents, huh?
Yeah.
Whoa. I love that.
Yeah.
And so
what I like about this trade, it's if you're wrong, quickly and small.
Yeah. And so let's take a look at the one of our members said take a look at the weekly TSI. Of course, is showing momentum starting to come out of it, but it is holding right there at the 8-period moving average, which equates to approximately the 50-day moving average. So yeah. Right now, I've got kind of cross signals momentum-wise. Daily TSI turning up right at a area of support. Now, how do you play it going into? Because it shows earnings on
the 6th, I believe. Yeah. Well, I'll just depends on the action. If there's not much action to the upside, I'll probably hold it through earnings.
Okay.
But if I've got any kind of profit, I'm taking it and then looking to get back in after earnings is announced.
So just if you would just share with everybody, what are your rules for, because I'm a person that if I don't have at least 10% profit going into earnings, I tend to say, hey, I'm out of this position, I'm
Sure.
gone?
Sure.
What's your rules for doing earnings?
It's pretty similar rules. If I've got 10% or more into earnings, I will take it. But if I don't have it, I will depending on how I feel about the stock. If it's an IBD 50, I think it's fundamentally sound. I will tend to hold non-movers through earnings.
Okay.
Yeah. But if I've got a profit, I will take it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So you hold stocks that aren't moving through earnings with the expectation. Correct. Do you ever? I know some people also they will. They'll reduce some of the risk going into
Sure.
earnings. So basically,
Sure.
like sell
Sure.
half the position.
Sure. And I don't have hard and fast rules around that, but it's a lot of what the price action is like as we go into earnings. A little bit of weakness into earnings does not startle me.
Okay.
I find the big boys tend to push the stock around a little bit. So in fact, I kind of like a little weakness into earnings.
Okay.
As a potential buy, or I'll certainly watch to get right into it right as soon as the earnings are announced.
Yeah, like right now, Steve, if I'm looking at this, if I would kind of like to see my TSI crossover. That's part of my
Sure.
my own
Sure.
rules and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But we are crossing up through the 8. If price, as long as prices kind of stay between where they are, 85.80 up to what's the high of the day, 86.69. That would basically almost be a buy, or I would wait till next week and say, hey, if I get a pull back down into about 85, get me in there.
Yeah, and for a Monday entry, what I call your setup, the Wilborn setup.
Yeah.
The close above the 8 and then the entry around the 8. Monday would be a perfect play out of that approach.
I like that. Now is SEG is SEG? This is Solar Edge Technology. Is it on any of the IBD watch list?
It is on the IBD watch list, or at least I take it back. It was recently. It may have recently come off.
Okay, so it was on the IBD 50
this year. Yeah, within the last few weeks, it was on the IBD 50.
Okay, so if you follow our watch list from Active Trend Trading, you know that means it's on the elite running list. So it stayed there. Yeah. Thanks, Steve.
Just a general comment, Dennis. For the most part, I trade only IBD 50 stocks.
Okay.
They may not be current, but they were at some time during the year on the IBD 50.
Yeah. So that you basically trade stocks kind of the way I do. That's why I keep the running list, because I want to know what's been on the list. Right. So. Okay, cool. Steve, thanks a lot. This looks, this looks like it has some strong potentials. Like I said, if you're looking at buying this today, I would wait until the last 30 minutes of the day. Right. And if it's still above the 8-day moving average or above the 20-day moving average, it would definitely, size the position as you see appropriate. Paper trade it, see what happens. Over the, because this could get this is kind of a strong move, because when you're trading a little range like this, it comes back into the middle. Oftentimes, it doesn't go any lower. That can be a trigger to a upside trade that can be very significant. So I like it. Thank you, Mr. Steve.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And so, okay, let's jump on over and finish up. So that was excellent. That was really good. So let's move on. So, hey, if you're looking for a speaker for your group, I can do customized meetings for your group via either in person and or on a webinar. Our next Bay Area Moneymaker webinar meeting comes up on November 2nd. And we're going to be talking about profitable income strategies is what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about both options and also some of the modifications we've been doing to our earnings strategies for the active trend trading system. Premium members, more live trading. We now do 2 live trade sessions for premium members, one on Monday, one on Friday, for the final hour of the day. What I've been finding is that final hour of the day actually sets up for is where you get some of your best setups. And the folks who've been working with us on the Accelerate Mentoring program that we just launched at the beginning of October. We've been working with everybody there on the last hour, and we've been getting some really great setups, because the benefit of waiting to the last hour is you kind of know whether the candlesticks, the momentum, the TSI is going to stick. First thing in the morning, sometimes you don't know that. You can get some movement on the stocks, and they give you false signals. So working on that free webinar, we'll be getting that out probably by the end of the month in October. If you have any questions, feel free to email me right there. And then last but not least, of course, hey, get your free weekly elite watch list here. Sign up there. This is a reflection of the book, How to Make Money Trading Stock Success Stories. I was highlighting that by Amy Smith. Bill O'Neill says about the people in this book, they can help you learn how to, find the top 2% of great stocks. So that basically covers us up for today. Thank you so much for joining us. As we say, with this particular live one, we don't do a lot of questions. Just trying to put out a lot of great information. Steve, I want to say thank you very much for being on the webinar today, because Sedge was an excellent potential opportunity for members and people who've joined, and people who've joined live on YouTube. So until next time, keep the egg growing and trade wisely, trade profitably. For premium members, we'll see you if you show up at the final hour, which is we'll be looking at trading the last hour of the day in just a little bit. So until next week, I just want to say aloha, trade well and prosper. Have a great weekend. Mahalo, and God bless everybody. Aloha.